and welcome to BNC Sports. I'm James Hill. HBCU basketball, the Norfolk State University Spartans are one of the hottest men's basketball teams in the country. We are joined by Coach Robert Jones, the Spartans head coach. First and foremost, Coach, I hope you and your family and everybody in Norfolk and the Spartan Nation are safe and sound.
Yeah, everybody's doing well. Everything's okay.
Can you give our audience an update on your basketball team, sir?
Well, currently we're 9-2. We just had a tough loss last night to Hampton. Losing on a miracle shot at the buzzer. But hey, that's the beauty of college basketball. Also the anguish, I would say, of college basketball too. But we're 9-2 right now, which is the best 11-game start. That's still in Meac basketball history, and of course Norfolk State history. So we're still headed in the right direction. Just a tough loss last night. That's all.
Coach, when you think about that particular rivalry, you look at the Bay there in Virginia. Can you speak a little bit to that rivalry and why that can be so important when we look at HBCU basketball, football, and HBCU athletics as a whole?
Well, I haven't been a part of a lot of HBCU rivalries. I know I hear about the A&T and Central rivalry and, things like that. But the Battle of the Bay, got to be one of the best, if not the best rivalry there is. I mean, we're separated by 20 minutes across the bridge. And, it's two Division I schools with great history as Division I programs and as Division II programs. There's a lot of rich history in these two institutions. So when we meet up, it's always a war. It's always a clash. The community gets so engaged in it. It's like last night, we were 9-1 going to that game. We lost at the buzzer, which, I guess a lot of people saw it was a lucky shot and things like that. But at the same time, people almost forget that you're 9-1. And then Hampton, I think they were 2-6 heading to that game. And now people forget that they were 2-6. They just think about it. They beat Norfolk State. So it goes that deep. You almost throw the records out the window and you got to go play the game.
Now you're stacking up victories. You actually knocked off UNC Wilmington in Wilmington. Can you discuss that victory over a mid-major, another mid-major, if you will?
It was great victory. Like I always tell people all the time, although we're at HBCU, we think that we're one of the best mid-major basketball programs in the country. So we don't really get caught up in, beating Wilmington or beating William and Mary or beating. We think that we're supposed to beat those schools if we want to be one of the best mid majors in the country. We were fortunate enough to be ranked on the only mid major poll that makes any sense or that counts with College Insider. The last poll, number 23 in the country. So we have shown that we're one of the best mid major basketballs in the programs in the country, whether HBCU or otherwise. So UNC Wilmington, which is another notch on that belt to go along with William and Mary and Bowling Green and Tennessee State and Hampton the first time and Grambling and things like that.
Coach, from your perspective, how competitive is HBCU basketball?
Super competitive, and I think that people outside of HBCU basketball is, they're finding out, and a lot of basketball programs are, finding out the hard way when they take HBCUs for granted. You see what we've done. We've had 6 out of conference wins. Spanning across a few conferences that people give a lot of recognition to. You see South Carolina State has had a good win against South Florida the other night, which is a great upset. Maryland Eastern Shore should have beat St. Joseph's, but they beat Fordham, out of the Atlantic 10. So they should honestly have 2 Atlantic 10 wins. And, they will pick low in the conference. So it just shows the balance that we have as a conference and what we can really do against other conferences when provided a chance.
Now, Coach, you actually have one of the best backcourts in the country and definitely in HBCU basketball. So why are Joe Bryant Jr. and Jalen Hawkins so effective, crafty, and skilled?
They complement each other. Jalen, is a guy that just knows how to get a bucket. It's not like he's like overly skilled or he's overly quick or anything like that. He just knows he has a knack for being able to play the game of basketball. Joe Bryant, he's a kid that does have some pretty good skill and he's not as athletic as Jalen, but he uses his size, his width, to draw fouls and things like that. And he can make the three. He has pretty good range on his shot. So they definitely complement each other. And then we have one starting and one coming off the bench, and Jalen. And Jalen obviously could be a starter, but I think that every good team has six starters, and you only can play five at a time. So he's our sixth starter, honestly. And he does a good job in that role for now.
Now, last season, you won the Meac. You went into Indianapolis, Indiana, into the NCAA tournament, and you bring back several pieces from that team, and you mesh that and gel that with some of the guys who will get more experience this season. Talk about your Spartans now. Again, you guys are blazing, and you're winning basketball games.
Well, I think that, and even with the loss, the unfortunate loss last night, we've won 17 out of our last 20 games, spanning back to last season. So we're 17-3 in the last 20, with only losses coming to Gonzaga, Xavier, and now Hampton. We've taken care of business, and I think that it's just a continuity from last year. We lost four starters, which is a tough thing to do, but we did return eight guys who played a little bit, including Joe Bryant and Jalen Hawkins, who played a lot, obviously, for us. And they just have continued that winning brand of basketball, and it just was a kind of a continuation of last year. Once the 9-2 start right now, so it's been a good thing.
Coach, I've been around basketball a long time, and you've been around it a long time. You played it up at SUNY. Can you talk about your perspective of HBCU players? And you actually recently played your team in the showcase, Chris Paul, out in the desert. Guys want to look, guys want to play at the highest levels, NBA and definitely overseas. But talk about your perspective from a scouting standpoint. Can guys play at that level, and what do you see from the inside out?
Oh, without question. I mean, overseas I can't say it's easy, but, we have guys that go overseas every year, multiple guys that go overseas every year. There's so many leagues over there, so many levels that you can, if you're a good enough college player, you're going to be able to play and make some money overseas. I mean, what kind of money you're going to make is to be determined, but you should be able to get some kind of job over there because there's so many different teams. Now, NBA and G League, I mean, I do think that there are kids that in the HBCUs that can play in NBA and G League. I think there's kids in our conference that can play in HBCU and G League. I think we got a couple kids on our team that can play in the NBA and G League. But it's just about those scouts not only understanding that there's good players in the league, but also coming to check it out. Also coming to watch those players and keep an eye on those players. And I think that the Chris Paul event obviously opened his eyes up to the whole world because we were on ESPN2 and ESPNU for those games. And then at one of those games, James Jones, the Phoenix Suns GM, watched the games and things like that. So it was an up close and personal evaluation of a lot of these kids to get the chance that they deserve. Honestly, it's like one thing Chris Paul said: don't just thank me for having you here. Understand that you deserve this opportunity, that you have earned this opportunity. It's not just about him. He said, you deserve to be on the stage. And that's the thing that we got to keep understanding, that we deserve to be on a big stage.
Coach, no one can look through a crystal ball, but you know that the foundation is set for a quality season as we move into the holidays and then we get into January and February and definitely March Madness. Just talk about the Spartans way as you coach this team up and you move forward.
Well, we're about to hit a tough 4-game stretch right now. We got, New Mexico, Loyola, Campbell, which is picked to win their conference, and then we have Wichita State next weekend. So this 4-game stretch is really going to determine how good our non-conference record is going to be. I mean, obviously, we could go anywhere from, 13-2, which is absolutely amazing for a mid-major, or we could be 9-6, which is pretty solid too. Because as you know, James, there's a lot of teams in the conference. Usually, sometimes almost 70-80% of the conference come into conference play under 500, and we've guaranteed ourselves that we're not going to be under 500 at this point, no matter what happens in these next 4 games. We're going to come in probably with the best record in conference play and non-conference play. So that's a good thing going into conference play. But we haven't really reached our ceiling at all, and I tell you why is because yes, we've won games. Yes, we're 9-2. Yes, we got a lot of fanfare for being 9-2. But if you look at our schedule and you can do the math on it, like we haven't got a chance to really practice. I mean, this week coming up, starting tomorrow, will be the first week that we've got to practice fully since the preseason. So everything that we've been doing, we've been kind of learning in games and getting better in games and things like that. But we haven't got a chance to actually get better. And now we're going to use this week to try to actually get better. And I know some people might think I'm crazy. They say, "Coach, you're 9-2. You know, how much better are you going to be?" Well, I mean, obviously we could be 11-0. That's better than 9-2. But I still think that we have we have a long way to go with this group.
Coach, in closing, the Meac, you look at what Howard is doing, you look at what Central is doing, and what other teams in the Meac are doing going into the Meac. How challenging will it be this season for all the teams in the Meac?
I mean, it's going to be a challenge. You know, it's going to be 8 teams. I don't think there's really any weak teams. I think sometimes when there's like 13 teams in the conference, honestly, you could probably almost pencil in 2 or 3 teams that you could sweep. And that's just the way it was year to year. This year's a little different. It's only 8 teams, and all 8 teams are doing well. I'm not exactly quite sure what Howard or Central is doing exactly, but I think that they have pretty solid teams, and they're going to be formidable. That we're going to have to, play them is going to be them two, and Morgan is really good, and Coppin is record is not that great, but they've shown they can stick in games against some of the high majors, which is should pay dividends from them later on. And Eastern Shore is a lot better, and like I said, South Carolina State got a good win the other day against South Florida. So it's not going to be any easy nights in the MEAC this year. Unlike some other years, I will say. So this is going to be totally different animal this year.